navigate the Swedish. Hi everyone, I'm Caffeinated Granny. I'm a knitter from Norway, currently living in Lisbon. Today we're going to be talking about what's on my needles. I've got some exciting projects coming up. Got one finished object and also some knitting plans, so stay tuned if you're interested. Today I'm wearing my own design, the Heidi's fancy vest. It's really good for when it's cold in the house. Very, very cold in the house today in Lisbon, so this is keeping me warm. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. Let's get started. So the first finished object that I have is my Marit Mittens, which look like this. The pattern is by Skeindeer Knits and it features a Selbu rose. And if you don't know what the Selbu rose is, it's a very, very famous type of pattern from Norway by a woman called Marit Mittens. She was born in 1841 and she's considered the mother of Selbu. Selbu is something that you will see everywhere in Norwegian knitting, especially in mittens like this. So this is a classic Selbu rose that looks like that. This is sort of rounded, so you can see it's a more modern take on it, but you can clearly see the influence. I did a slight modification to the pattern, like for instance, I swapped the way that the thumb is knit. So I wanted, this is originally supposed to look like what's on the inside. There's a little rose there, but I liked it better like that. So I knitted it to stay consistent with this pattern once it lies flat. I also changed the cuff. So I've got two Latvian braids going on and just some ribbing to give it a little bit of stretch. I'm really into Latvian braids these days, so I wanted to try something like that on these mittens. I knitted these mittens up in Peer Gynt from Sandnesgarden, these two colors, and I didn't use up either. I actually bought 100 grams of Peer Gynt just to make sure that I had enough yarn, and I definitely had enough yarn. Like I can even knit another pair because I had approximately 10 grams left of each skein. So I've gone for a brown color. The color is called 3161, and then I've got sort of like a white, slightly light beige color. 2511. These are the mittens, and you can see that I've also inverted the colors. That's not something that's in the pattern either, but I'm seeing a lot of YouTubers that are knitting mittens right now, and they are inverting the colors and just looks so cool. I really like it. Such a statement piece, I think, to any outfit. No? I got inspired to knit mittens by watching some fellow knitting YouTubers. I was mainly watching Florence. She was knitting the Alma mittens and I really wanted to knit those. So I bought the pattern, and then I saw Woozy by Celine. She was knitting the Songbird mittens and I thought they were so beautiful as well. I really liked her choice of color. She had white and like hot pink, which looked so good. I ordered some Peer Gynt in hot pink and white, and I was intending to knit the Songbird mittens, but then I didn't realize that Peer Gynt is way too chunky of a yarn for that. And I guess I got confused with looking at the Alma mittens, because for the Alma mittens you could use a chunkier yarn and use needle size 4. Songbird mittens, I think it was fingering weight and then 3mm needles, so I sort of messed up a little bit there. And I was very humbled, very humbled knitting these mittens. Never knitted mittens before, and I had the knitting colorwork socks, right? But that was a while ago. And I remember Florence in her podcast, she said that she did one mitten in 2 hours. So I was thinking, okay, I'm a bit rusty, so I'll probably add like double the amount of time to that and I'll be able to knit a mitten in 4 hours. But no, definitely not. I was very, very quickly humbled. First off, you're using like the tiniest needles. So you can either use DPNs, which is what most sane people do, but I really don't like DPNs. I think it's annoying to always have to make sure that the gauge is perfect with DPNs as you switch the needle. So I much prefer to have a circular needle. So I got a circular needle, tiny small needles. So you can't really, like, I'm used to resting my wrist on the needle while I knit, and you can't do that here. So it was very uncomfortable to begin with. That was the first thing, the needle size. So the second thing that tripped me up is that I was also learning English throwing at the same time. I've always been a continental knitter. As I was looking on YouTube to get inspiration and tips on how to do colorwork mittens, I saw this lady that was doing continental with her left hand. So she was holding the dominant yarn on the left finger, and then she had the background yarn on the right finger. She would knit continental style knitting with the dominant yarn, and then she would do English throwing with her right finger with the background yarn. And I thought, that looks really efficient. I really want to learn that. And it took some time getting used to, definitely. But I would say after the first half of the first mitten, I got a hang of it, but it was going very, very slow there for a while. I would do like 3 rows in a day, and then my hands would really cramp up because of these like tiny needles that I was not used to at all. But it was a really cool experience. Step by step, just keep your patience, keep you cool, and eventually it will turn out the way you want it. But it definitely took, like I started with this mitten. Surprisingly, looking at this, my tension seemed to be the same. I'm a very tight knitter. Approximately from like the first flower, that's when I felt like, oh yeah, I got this. And then I would do half of the flower, the other half of the flower in 2 hours. This portion, it probably took me a week to get through, not gonna lie. Could you hear how my voice is trembling now? I'm getting emotional at the trauma. But yeah, so I'm super happy with the result. So this was so much fun. And I reminded myself some really valuable lessons about color dominance in color work. Before, when I was knitting socks, and I would just do continental, and I would like have the 2 strands of yarn on one finger, and then I would just drop the yarn that I wasn't using, and then I would make sure that the dominant color was always going under. I was looking on Instagram at some examples of what it looks like when you knit with the dominant color like that versus when you don't, and the differences are massive. My dog is just complaining that he's not getting attention over these mittens. Now let's talk about works in progress. I really wanted to make a cozy cardigan, which I mentioned in my other blog if you've seen it, and I did finish it. Then when I was going to block it, usually I do it by hand in the sink. I don't trust my washing machine, because once I shrunk a beautiful Marseille sweater that I made by Petite and I was depressed for months, you know, and I like made a vow, like I will never ever use the washing machine to block again. But then I went to my mum's house, and that's where I was knitting the cardigan. And when it was done, my mum said, why don't you put it in the washing machine? I always block my knits that way. So I put it in the washing machine, and I was putting on the settings myself. I was just asking my mum, what do I do? What do I put it on? Whatever. And then it came out. Oh, it was just destroyed. I don't even think it would fit a 3-year-old. It would be so heavy that 3-year-old would just like fall over because of the amount of yarn. Because I'm basically holding, I've got 2 strands of alpaca bouclé. For this I used 1 strand of charisma, drops charisma. For my new cardigan, I'm using 2 strands of alpaca bouclé. So holding that double, and then I'm holding it with drops Nepal, which is also an alpaca yarn. Very, very soft. So it's going to be even softer than this bouclé vest. So this colorway of the drops alpaca is 5110 and of Nepal 0501. I'm choosing to see it as something positive because when I was knitting the first sample, I was contemplating having pockets on it. So I was asking on Instagram, hey, I'm doing pockets, what do you think of it? And people were really positive to it. But then I changed my mind. My initial vision of the cardigan was that it would be fluffy and chunky, but cropped. With a cropped cardigan, it was quite difficult to have pockets here. But this time around, I'm gonna listen to you guys. I'm gonna listen to what Instagram said. I'm gonna make it longer. I'm gonna knit this part of the pocket as long as the rest of the body so that I can knit those pieces together at the hem. Okay, I deviated quite a bit from the Heidi's fancy vest pattern. I was using this as the foundation. First obvious deviation is that I'm doing a twisted rib stitch. And the way to bring up texture is to do, well, to make the rib twisted, because otherwise it would just sort of get lost. It would look like this, more or less. I think this brings more definition to the stitch, which is really nice. I just love this gray color. Every morning I sit out on the porch with this in my lap and I just admire this gray. That's this when the sun shines on it. Wow, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. So I'm gonna make it slightly longer. I'm gonna have balloon sleeves that are tapered in and double knitted button band. I'm gonna keep that, and then obviously the pockets. It's coming together very quickly because I'm knitting it up on 10mm needles. It's gonna be great, and I'm gonna be looking for test knitters soon. So if you are interested, I mean, it doesn't look like much now. I'll see if I can find better photos of the one that I destroyed. On to my other whip. This is also a pattern that I'm currently making as I knit it. It doesn't have a name yet. I'm just calling it my red cardigan. Doing the whole cardigan in Red Currant by Knitting for Olive, held together with pink daisies from Knitting for Olive as well. So I'm knitting this up on 4.5mm needles, so it's not super slow, but definitely not fast. I'm using a slip stitch pattern that I absolutely love. It's beautiful. Right now I just finished the body. And the neckline is looking like this. You can see that it has a 3-stitch I-cord going all the way around the neckline, all the way down, and it sort of blends in very well with the slip stitch pattern. And then at the bottom of the body I went in from a slip stitch pattern and I did a twisted rib, so twisting the knit stitch and just purling and repeating that. And I think it has a very, like, the continuation for the slip stitch pattern into this is very beautiful. This is turning into a bit of labor of love, mainly because of, well, keeping my head straight while doing the pattern, and also because of the German short rows. It took a long time to figure that out for me, but basically you start in the mid back with a provisional cast on, and then I was knitting up, and then I started decreasing on the sides, right, to make that triangle shape. And then I picked up stitches for the shoulders and I made sure that I would keep the pattern. So you can see there's sort of a continuation of the pattern there. And then very early on I start increasing for the neckline. And my vision for this is to have some crochet, like a crochet chain with a pearl on the top. And I'm not sure if I want to do just one. The sleeves, they're gonna be quite balloon sleeves. One thing that I don't like when you have large sleeves is that the fabric sort of tends to, oh, actually, hold on, let me get some more light here because it's getting so dark. It's getting so dark and so cold in the winter here. Are you seeing my dog? What is he doing? What I was told. Yeah, I'm doing balloon sleeves, right? But I want to be conscious about not making the balloon sleeves so wide that you have like excess fabric just like underneath the armhole. I really don't like that look. So I'm going to do short rows on top, sort of knit a cuff. I'll knit a part out like this. That will make it so that there's not a huge amount of excess fabric underneath the armhole, which is quite a neat trick that I recently learned. So I'm excited to see what this will look like once it's done. I'm really hoping to have it done by next week, because next week me and my boyfriend Tiago, we're going to Sevilla to be cheerleaders for some friends of us that are doing a half marathon. And I don't know, I have dreams of me wearing this. There's a knitting designer that I adore called Aegyo Knits. She's from Denmark. She has a cardigan that I've been drooling over for ages, and I just got the yarn for it. This is Rauma Fivel. I've never tried it before, but everyone in my family loves Rauma. So it's Norwegian wool that's spun in Romsdalen. I'm sure you've heard about it, it's very famous. So this is the first time I'm going to be using it, so I think it's going to be epic. I cannot wait. And I'm actually gonna, hold on, I have mohair to hold with this as well. So the mohair that I wanted to use with this, originally I got kid silk, but the color that came was very gray and cool. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not gonna fit with this one because this is very warm in the color. So I have to save this for something else, which is very annoying because I don't like having yarn lying around. I get a little bit of OCD. But anyway, I'll find something nice to do that with. I think a blouse number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, maybe a cumulus blouse. So I ordered the brushed alpaca silk from Drops in just the color natural, which is way warmer, so it's a better color match. And I'm pairing it with mohair just because from my experience, garments hold much better when they're held with mohair. It might diffuse the cables a little bit, but I think it's worth it because I don't like it with when garments pill. And I just find that when I hold wool with mohair, it doesn't pill as much. So for me, it's really worth it. It also has more insulation, so it's much warmer, which is nice. And then the next knitting plan that I have is something, so this is kind of crazy, but basically, Elin Berlin book, her name on Instagram is WoolandBeyond. Yeah, 6 months ago, she put out some promotional videos of one of the patterns. Look at this book. It's amazing. Honestly, if you are considering getting this book, Maska för maska, it's in Swedish. Maybe it will come out in English. You should get it. Like, just even get it in Swedish and do Google Translate. Norwegian and Swedish are quite similar, so I have confidence that I will manage to navigate the Swedish to get this pattern. Hold on, I need to show you. Oh, here it is. Look at that. Look at this. It's a shirt. It's a knitted shirt. When she dropped those promotional videos, I was like, I need that in my life. She just called it Skjortan, which means the shirt. And I can also agree with that. This is the shirt. She recommends, she knitted it with Filcolana Merci and Filcolana Tilia. This is what it looks like behind. Look at that. How lovely. I think it's going to be very interesting because it looks like this is knitted in a different direction than this. So I'm guessing that it's probably going to be similar to the cardigan that I'm going to do from Aegyo Knits. So I've done a little bit of research, and apparently you start with knitting the sleeves and then you knit this part and then the other sleeve, and then you pick up stitches for here and then you knit the body down. Very interesting construction. Never done that before, so very excited about that. Unfortunately, when I was in Norway, I couldn't find the exact yarn for it, so I had to improvise a little bit. I'm gonna knit this up in Flora by Drops, which is a very cheap but amazing alpaca yarn. 65% wool, 35% alpaca. I love this yarn. My mum has knitted quite a lot with this. I gave her for her birthday last year like a pattern from Knitting for Olive and Knitting for Olive yarn. Then she knitted a sweater with it, which was obviously beautiful. I mean, we all know Knitting for Olive, how gorgeous that yarn is. And then she knit her second sample in Drops Flora, held together with Arle, Silk by Arle. It's a Norwegian brand, and it was equally lovely. And I'm going to hold it together with Alpaca Følgetråd, which is awesome. I don't know if you ever tried this yarn, but this has 400 meters of yarn in it. Very economical, and it's so soft. This is 100% alpaca, and I think it's a great alternative for people out there who are sensitive to mohair. Sometimes I am, but this is only soft, like I don't have any reaction to it. Those are all my updates for today. I'm really curious to hear, I'm new to colorwork, so let me know if you have any colorwork tips, because I'm all ears. I would love to hear. I think I managed to do a decent job despite me not doing colorwork for ages, but yeah. If you have any cool color work tips or just mitten tips in general, please share down below. I would be very grateful for that. I'm curious to hear what you guys are knitting. I'm seeing a lot of people knitting mittens and knitting accessories in general as a trend now in winter. And I'm very excited to knit the Sophie hood by Petite Knit. Even a friend of mine who's not a knitter sent me that reel. That's how popular it is. I'm always surprised by Petite Knit's designs. That's just so simple looking, genius. I just love her. I adore her, and I get like really riled up whenever I go on YouTube and there's always a video that says Petite Knit is overrated or why I'm not knitting Petite Knit and stuff like that, and it makes me enraged because like she is to me the knitting queen. She makes beautiful classic patterns. They're so easy to read. It's very accessible. She has videos, tutorials for how to do things, and the fit is just incredible. I don't know what you guys are complaining about. Rant over, but I'm also curious to hear about what you think about Petite Knit, and what do you think about Petite Knit? I wouldn't want to say haters, but doubters, you know. To me, she's like the knitting queen of the world right now. But anyway, let me know what you think about Petite Knit, and let me know what you are knitting right now. I would love to hear. And until next time, ciao ciao, beijinhos.